Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sorting Hat Podcast, where everything and anything can and will be sorted. I, as always, am your host, Michael Barryte, and giggling in the corner is my co-host, Katie Reed.
I say funny things, and then you turn the mic on. Now I'm not funny, so.
All right. Wonderful. The basic conceit of the show is we are joined by a expert or comedian, in this case, both, who's going to be leading us through a topic which we will be sorting into the various houses of Hogwarts. Our guest today is the wonderful Billy Domineau.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
I didn't expect you're both so cute. Stop it.
We won't stop being cute. We're going to be making eyes at one another all night.
Well, I still keep my head tilted forward, but I can look to the side now and then. Yeah. So
those glances.
I'll be darting about.
Those glances. Billy, your major claim to fame is that about a year ago you released a very exceptional 9/11 Seinfeld script, which since then you've been a writer on Family Guy, subsequently because of that script. You're a very funny gentleman. We're glad to have you. And of course, based on all of that, we're going to be sorting the members of the president's cabinet. There's no really clear transition there.
No, you killed that segue, dude.
No, man, yeah.
How did we end up there? Because we had the text about a week or two ago trying to decide what topics we would settle on.
Well, because we had to... A lot of them we had to just cut because only you even would understand what's going on.
I really did want to do
haircuts, dogs, irises.
But then you threw out American history, and we were like, "Oh, that could be fun." And then you were like, "But more specifically, this one facet," and we were like, "Yeah, okay."
And now that I guess I'm coming this as a fan of the cabinet, someone who is, really likes executive action, who likes, the idea of being able to, specialize within branches in order to carry out the intended
that's
work.
Fine, bitch.
Not so much a fan of the legislative or judicial.
Not the legislative, if it's going to be.
All right, nerds. Okay, nerds.
Yes.
What? All right.
See, this is obstructionism, which is my problem.
Before we get into any of this stuff that I'm not going to understand with my Inland Empire public education system education, Billy and I have had a feud basically from the time that we met.
Yeah.
Before, it might even predate our podcast. I don't remember.
It does. It
was when the podcast was merely, a whisper on the air.
Of which house in Hogwarts he would actually be sorted into. I even blindly sent photos of him to my friends, probably 24 of them, just saying, what Hogwarts house is he in?
That said, and it is also worth noting, Katie is a Hufflepuff, I am a Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
The photo to which you sent to me of Billy is a very odd photo.
Oh, almost every other reaction was, who's this amateur magician? And I think that's what makes me like Billy so much is that sort of...
But you very much were crafting a narrative.
I don't think that's... I think I was just presenting the facts as I saw them.
But in any case...
he was a Hufflepuff to me, is what I'm trying to say.
It's my comedic headshot that was sent via text while we were at Cantor's discussing, houses. And so Katie, immediately said, oh, well, of course you're Hufflepuff. You know that, right?
Yeah.
I took tremendous offense to it because, I can be a kind person, a caring person, and a patient person at times. When push comes to shove, I'm going to push people.
He pushed me down the stairs at Cantor's, and when I landed at the bottom, I was like, I still think you're a puff. Call an ambulance.
That's what technocracy is.
That said... Upon Billy arriving here, as Katie was running a touch late...
Okay, don't tell people my private life.
Katie was running late, per usual.
Okay, wow.
And just to make it explicit, it's been well known within me and my friend group, people who've known me for years and years, I am a Ravenclaw.
But...
I was
upon taking this test.
Yeah, I was like, you make him take it in front of you. You have to be in the room for every question.
I was a witness to Billy Domineau taking this test.
I am prepared to accept whatever outcome this is.
Your perception is that he is a Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
Billy's perception was, going into this, that he is a Ravenclaw.
And many character witnesses.
Katie, Billy's house
Oh, this is like Maury.
is a Slytherin.
No!
Yes.
Katie's ran out of the room.
Katie has.
No,
they have
that
left
was
the
a-
room.
That was a prank, right?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Billy is 100% a Slytherin. And
All right, let's talk through this for a second. One, I've said before that, like, listen, I'm Ravenclaw, Slytherin Rising. I still reject this test because this is based on
You
things.
can't. This is J.K. Rowling's test. This is the only one that she says is legitimate.
Great, you're totally right. And let's also go on goop.com and take Gwyneth Paltrow's test for what egg I should put up my vagina. Like, that's the level of accuracy and corporate
Gwyneth
branding you're
Paltrow
talking
didn't
about here.
invent eggs or vaginas, no matter what she tries
She
to
invented
tell
a
you.
modern appreciation for them, I'll say that.
You a damn Slytherin. I'm fucking. Oh, bitch, I am dying.
This is so good. I saw that
This
and
is
was
some
delighted.
This is some prestige TV drama. Like, because honestly, I was just expecting, like, all right, you're a Ravenclaw. I'm gonna eat this shit. Oh my god.
I mean, speaking of prestige TV, like, for whatever reason, I have taken the Pottermore test twice now since it came out like a year ago or whatever, and both times I have ended up with a Slytherin reign from it.
You didn't even tell me that.
Because I think I did talk about, but you said no, and you at the time were just like, oh no, obviously that's insane. So your trust of this corporate test is very, iffy. There's a lot
Wow,
of...
this explains so much.
I am loving this. That
He's losing
said,
his mind. Let's do this thing.
I don't
I'm ready
understand
to
how long to
sort.
study Merfolk equates to Slytherin, but I can accept Slytherin so long as I'm not a Hufflepuff.
all right, so we're diving into the cabinet
I'm
as
still a
we try to
Ravenclaw.
just sweep this one forward. I would gladly accept you as a Ravenclaw brethren. That said,
Rules are rules.
we're getting a little diversity in the sorting chambers.
Fine with that.
So,
Ambitious.
diving in, there are 22 cabinet positions that
Oh,
need to
man.
be confirmed by Congress. We are going to be addressing all of them. So, jumping in, now, before we even dive fully in, we did have a discussion off mic about terms, and Billy and I bonded a little bit over our former glory days doing parliamentary debate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah,
Like
again.
Englishmen with the wigs.
We're adorable.
I mean, you are a prime minister or a leader or a member of the opposition or a
There's
They
a
do this in
resolution.
America?
Yeah, it's a whole large scene. I did it in community college. Billy did it in high school. There's a government side and opposition side. There's a member for each. One presents their case based off the resolution. The other team has a chance to respond with either a counter plan or rebuttals. Then the member of the government party, then the member of the opposition party, then closing arguments.
You refer
Y'all-
to the judge as Mr. or Madam Speaker.
There are very strict time limits in, and everybody's writing like crazy and carrying things across.
While
and
you guys
points
were
that are
doing this,
addressed.
like I was getting kicked out of poetry club.
In any and all cases, terms are the biggest and most important factor.
Katie, Empire Records isn't poetry.
It is when it's in Japanese.
So terms are a thing that we need to just be articulating and figuring out before we've moved forward in our sorting. So you had specified...
So, well, here are the options for it. We can either talk about the original intent of the cabinet position. We can talk about the execution of that cabinet position, historically or in the modern day. Some combination of the two or three, who knows?
Yo, I'm a man of the people, and I want to make something that's accessible and useful for the average man.
All right, so it sounds like Katie's vote is for modern day. Perhaps it's worth at least mentioning, like, why was this cabinet position made? And in some cases, we might be like, oh, this cabinet position doesn't need to really exist anymore.
Because also, I mean, we are talking about executive branch positions. These aren't, explicitly, for the most part, aren't explicitly laid out in the Constitution, and they have adapted to, governmental needs. They've taken on slightly different roles
Right.
within a larger umbrella.
Because I have to imagine, like, when William McKinley, who was like a relatively well-established isolationist, was doing his thing. Like Secretary of State was not doing a ton, right?
Well, Secretary of State has always been like, in the sort of way, I feel like Secretary of State has come back into prominence in the last few years, or at least through the Obama administration specifically, in terms of the way that, you know, people our age see it, in terms of being like, oh, this is a powerhouse position that makes a lot of big decisions and holds a lot of sway in the cabinet. But Secretary of State was always historically like, bam, that's the top position. That's what you want. Whereas we used to, you know, I think a lot of people have grown up thinking, you know, vice president, that's the number 2. And vice president has historically been a shit position that you stick someone in so they can be forgotten about and they can die. But Secretary of State, I mean, that's the foreign minister. That's the person who goes out and gets shit done.
Yeah.
Oh.
Secretary of State, to my understanding, and my understanding is fairly shallow, but it is primarily dealing with other foreign nations, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding too. Again, I do not claim to have expertise of this, but my understanding of Secretary of State is, yeah, essentially they're going out and they're advocating for the U.S. positions, you know, in foreign countries, talking
Who
to
are we going to bomb?
Or make peace treaties with.
I mean, yeah, that's possible. It
but
could happen.
bombing is
Yeah.
fun too.
Yeah. All right. So based off of since we do have to rattle through these fast.
Yeah. Here we go.
Secretary of State, based on what you've got right now, what are you thinking?
Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Ravenclaw, really?
Absolutely. Pragmatism, realpolitik, has to actually have a sense of, you know, statecraft and how they are going to forge at sometimes uncouth alliances in order to better the national interest, the short, the medium, and the long term. It is a position that looks beyond the presidency in
So
which
you're viewing it very much of like they need to keep a cool head about themselves because they're watching all of the pieces tick by on
They're
the grid.
playing fifth dimensional chess while we're all on checkers.
As opposed to, because I initially was thinking perhaps it's a Gryffindor based on the fact that they need to be like a very large presence representing an entire country to the world effectively. As they're not, you know, like some of these work just internally, or domestically rather.
I think there's a good bet that the foreign minister in a lot of other countries would be a Gryffindor in that sense. But in the US, where you have such a strong and clear presence of, you know, the president as being, you know, leader of the free world, you know, that is essentially going to be a Gryffindor role, whereas Secretary of State is the nerd president.
Also, like as you were saying, it wasn't as much of as like a nationally known presence. Is that what you said before?
Just in terms of the very contemporary, the very recent understanding, I feel
Yeah.
like so many of us are brought up like through, you know, when we're being told about the executive branch in 5th grade, you know, the vice president's made a student number 2.
It doesn't seem as glamorous is probably not the right word, but so I feel like if maybe there was a little bit more of that sort of like image, that would make it a Gryffindor. But since it hasn't had it up until recently, I'd agree it's probably
Right.
Ravenclaw.
And I think some of that also stems from the United States being a superpower, that there needs to be a little bit more restraint on what that is, because balancing every alliance and treaty that we have while going forward and interacting with everyone and trying to be everyone's friend, presumably. Obviously, in some cases, we aren't so friendly with certain folks, like North Korea. But, you know, like, you know, you have to be navigating around all those strings or lasers, however you want that metaphor
And you have to make
go.
sure that your personal oil and gas interests are being protected. You know, that
Always,
sort of-
baby.
So I think a Ravenclaw seems safe, sound. We're all in agreement
Hell
on
yes.
that.
Are we looking to
Speedway.
form a consensus, or like, can we end in like, you know,
Oh, yeah, we can
vicious
disagree.
hatred?
We can end in vehement, just sending I hate towards one another. But we, you know, at the end of the day, we got to move on.
Has blood been spilled in the past?
I menstruate.
Yep.
I wouldn't call that spilling unless you're using a Diva Cup.
Honey.
Just let that one sit. Moving on to Secretary of the
Let's
Treasury.
sort Diva Cups really quickly.
The original Diva Cup, definitely a Gryffindor. It's got some problems, but it's trying hard. The Moon Cup, I put that into Hufflepuff. It's silly as hell. It doesn't work that well. The ones that are, I don't remember their name, but they are one use only, garbage, Slytherin.
And sorted.
Oh, soft cups. There you go.
Secretary
Soft
of the
cups.
Treasury, a similarly nerdy position.
For the record, I'm Gryffindor in all Diva Cups. Continue. What was it? Secretary of the Treasury?
Secretary of the
Diva Cups?
Treasury. Secretary of Treasury, we're dealing with the
Man doesn't know
cash.
shit about Diva Cups.
Do we feel that I'm like choosing to just move on? The ship is sailing, guys. Like you can jump on.
You haven't had one before. You haven't tried one. Otherwise, you would be just as interested as we are right now.
Have
Yeah.
a slice of Diva Cup, Michael. What's going on with you? Why are you being a prude right now? What kind of diet are you on? You can't, work a little Diva Cup in?
I'm not used to being ribbed so much.
Go to divacup.com and put in the promo code
Your
Michael.
Diva Cup can be ribbed for your pleasure.
Right. I unfortunately teed that up a little bit.
You walked into it with the confidence that only a Diva Cup can give you.
Right. Hey.
What's
Secretary of the
secret?
Treasury.
Do they sponsor this podcast?
They
Am
are
I
today.
plugging Diva Cup
Like
right
I was
now?
saying, go to divacup.com, put in the promo code Michael has never seen a woman menstruate, and you will get your own Diva Cup 20% off.
Yup. Like, am I supposed to fight that one? What do you want this to be?
I don't
One-
want to fight. I just want everyone to love and have a Diva Cup inside them while they do it.
Just so you understand how tangents work within my brain, I just need to now share the story that the first time I ever saw a bidet in Europe, I was in a hotel in Rome by myself,
Fuck
and I
bidets.
was so excited to use it, and I couldn't figure out how to use the bidet, so I got angry at it and peed in it out of spite.
You did.
I peed into a
Do they
bidet.
flush?
They have water running, so you can like flush in the sense of drain and like.
I just know
flush in
that
the
I
sense that
used
a
one
lake flushes.
at our mutual friend Kimia's house, and it was too violent, and I did not like it.
That bidet was an add-on bidet. I don't support that. I do like a standalone bidet. I'm looking at your face right now. I already knew you were going to make everything about class at some point tonight, but right now you're looking to make this about class. So go ahead if you need to. But that said,
No, I'm
Michael
sure-
isn't talking about
I'm
Secretary of
sure
Treasury, and you're bringing up Diva Cups
The
out of
Catholic you
nowhere.
grew up in had a wonderful
just going
European
to-
style bidet.
For the record, while Katie was giving you that look, I was giving you my own look of that at the same time.
Listen,
Where do you winter?
the islands,
All
and
of them.
and you have
Sorry.
no business
I
asking
know
me
you were
that.
a Slytherin with this fucking. I love a European standalone bidet.
But also, just when you ask the question in that form, where do you winter? You're already like teeing them up for just to be like a classist.
how many more of these positions we gotta get through, dude?
At my
we have
family retreat is where I
21.
went to.
We only did one.
We've done one.
We're
The
working at a fine pace.
Secretary of the Treasury.
Oh, they got money.
Yeah, it's again like a similarly nerdy thing, but it's working domestically
Dude,
speaking.
I don't know. Like,
Is this one specifically dealing with IRS?
I believe the IRS is located, under the Treasury,
Right.
Department of Treasury.
are they figuring out our budget?
They are figuring out how to pay our bills. They are figuring out how to coin money. They are working in conjunction with the Fed in order to set monetary policy. They're essentially, if money touches it in the sense of like, okay, there's a big amount of money, we need to figure out how that's going to flow through our system, they're involved.
So like, would it be involved in like, this much is doled out to education, this much is doled out to like Medicaid, this one is doled out to the defense?
I don't believe so. I think they're more about like, okay, we have these, like the biggest place that Treasury has come up in the past few years in a very public way has been the debt ceiling fights.
Oh, okay.
Because they're the ones in charge of saying like, hey, we owe this much money on the T-notes to these people on this day, and here's how we can shuffle around, our funds and make everything fungible in order to meet these debts on paper, even if we're not meeting them in reality,
Okay.
essentially.
I don't know. My
Strike that,
heart
reverse
would
it.
also put this to Ravenclaw.
Yeah, it does seem very Ravenclaw. Of course, a lot of these are going to be policy based.
Yeah, no, like when you got some wonks, it's gonna be nerd shit. It's
But
gonna be a lot of
I'd call us a
Ravenclaw.
wonk position. Ezra Klein's ready for this on his blog.
But I will say, jumping on down, Secretary of Defense, I think we're good and sorted on Treasury. I don't think Secretary of Defense is necessarily a Ravenclaw.
No,
either.
I mean, the current Secretary of Defense is named Mad Dog, so
Right.
that's going to tell us a lot right there.
Well, and that of course, obviously depend. Like they're Secretary of Defense, but they are the armed service, like head honcho. So it's defense, but that also means offense.
Now, defense is like, at least for my entire adult life, has been kind of overinflated and bloated in terms of like how much defense gets in their budget. Has it always been historically the case?
Well, so we definitely, no, not necessarily, because at different points throughout history, especially in the 19th century, you had expansions and contractions of, defense as a whole, and especially, the Navy was always a big part of that. Like, do we want a bigger Navy? Do we want a smaller Navy? Because that's how we, push our power out into Europe or out into the Pacific and things like that. One of the big things for me in terms of defining the Department of Defense right now is the fact that it used to be called the Department of War. And
it might as well be called the Department of Imperialism. Can I get a hand up in the air? No one's going to join me.
No one can see your hands.
There are no workers here with me, only a Ravenclaw
For all
and a
our
Slytherin.
listeners know, all of our hands are in the air right now.
Yeah.
Nice try,
For
Katie.
all our listeners know, we're all using Diva Cups right now. And we're all having a great experience with it.
Ribbed for my pleasure.
That's what a Diva Cup is.
I would say this Department of War / Defense is a Slytherin.
I would go with Slytherin too, especially since it's been switched to defense, because that's also relatively soon after that is when you start getting into military industrial complex things.
Yeah.
And you get into proxy,
When did that
more and more proxy wars.
name change happen? That's some slick
Let's
shit.
look it up right now. I'm gonna guess it happened in the McKinley administration. I'm gonna guess it happened then, and so I'm gonna go like
Really? You're thinking that early?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that it happened in 1897. That's a fake number, but I'm gonna put it out there.
But yeah, okay. I would
We
say
need bets, we need bets.
I would probably
I, for some reason, am thinking like
Nixon.
World War II.
I'm
Okay.
saying Nixon, but I'm probably dumb as
You're on
hell.
the defense. I already know that you're wrong,
All right.
but I don't know. It's
like erring on the side of like 39-ish.
Okay, so-
like right on the cusp of really tipping into World War
And
II.
in order to do that, you're suggesting right there that it's really part of Roosevelt's larger scheme to get us involved by saying, no, we don't care about war. We care about defending the U.S., but
Right.
that means protecting our allies. Pull the card. Let's see what happens. No whammies.
When did it happen? 1947.
Wow.
1947. Have since 1949 been non-cabinet subordinates.
you know
And was
what?
it always called Department of Defense, or was it called Department of War, or was it just Secretary of War?
It says, in 1947, with the passing of the National Security Act of 1947, the Security of War was replaced by the Secretary of the Army and the Secretary of the Air Force, which, along with the Secretary of the Navy, has since 1949
Yo, whoever wrote that sentence needs to fucking step it
been
up.
non-cabinet subordinates under the Secretary of Defense. So
That was poorly written.
I think
sorry.
I still took that one.
I'm fucking
No,
throwing
I'd give
shade
it
at the
to
Wikipedia
Barryte.
writer.
So this was a post-World War II change.
That's going into the Cold War and drawing a strong
Wait,
line between
are we
us and the
doing
Soviet Union.
Price is Right rules?
Oh, then in that case, you win this one?
No, because you went
I went over.
Oh, you went over.
You went under.
I went under. That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Oof.
I don't watch The Price is Right that frequently, guys. Also
That-
unfamiliar
were you
with...
not sick as a child? Were you?
No. Okay, so
Did you thrive?
whenever I was sick, I tended to watch Nick Jr., and I watched that, and recently I had like a brain flash of like, what was the name of that British dog show on Nick Jr.? It's Kipper. And
Yes.
I was
yeah.
losing my fucking mind for like, because I thought the name started with a C, and I was like, C, British dog, Nick Jr., and it was not coming up.
But we see
in
our man
Google.
stops watching TV after Nick Jr.'s over, does not switch over to the daytime TV like we do.
No,
Just
I was
watch it
then
for
also
like 8 hours.
I was also reading a lot of Boxcar Children and Hardy Boys
hell
when
yeah.
I was little.
I just remember the Boxcar Children finding their plates at the dump
Yep.
and then boiling it themselves, and me just being like, that is still not sanitary. I do not buy that you guys are doing this. You are children.
You were
As a
thinking
child.
about sanitation then?
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, like, I went camping and all the time, and I'm not like, I'm knowing you drop in like to like clean up water, but that shit never crossed my mind. But
They were homeless children, and I
No.
do not know if they were taking care of themselves properly.
They were a bunch of delightful
If
scamps.
they were, they'd be using Diva Cups, because especially if you don't have money and you need to boil
I
something.
saw the cogs in your head turning just as you're like, we're gonna bring this around. Every single cabinet position, it's gonna come back to these goddamn.
You're the one who brought
Diva
boxcar
Cups.
children.
We're gonna
Just
end up
cheat
doing.
it off. If you
We're gonna do 6 of these cabinet positions.
No, man, we're like just a little less than half an hour in, but we're going all the fucking way, Katie.
I'm just saying,
too.
if you're gonna bring up, children's mystery novel series, how do you expect me not to talk about reusable menstrual catchers? Just saying that.
Menstrual catchers.
That said,
That's how I know you're a
Secretary of
man.
Defense, formerly Secretary of War, I'm in agreement with you that it's a Slytherin, although I could be swayed in the direction of it being a Gryffindor because they are bold and brash, occasionally depending on the administration.
We know who you voted for.
That said, we're moving the fuck on to the Attorney General, yo. All right, truth be told, don't know a ton about the Attorney General other than that's like our link to the Judiciary Committee.
Because
Fairness.
They lawyers.
They are gonna be you better be a lawyer if you're gonna get appointed attorney general. That'd be real fucked up if you weren't.
Like, I mean, I've just known since, like, obviously they have to have a good understanding of the law, and an argument could be that they're trying to be fair. For that, Hufflepuff, bam, done, moving on.
Is that what you think?
I would say Gryffindor because they have to get out there and fight for fairness. I can accept Hufflepuff, but a good attorney general should be very active and be going out there and saying, no, we're going for this, and we're not afraid of a fight. But
So they're more aggressive than Hufflepuff would be.
Truthfully, that depends on the person. Like, because you might have a very soft attorney general, or you might not have
attorney general.
You might have a legislative or executive branch that isn't trying to do any shiesty shit. Like,
hypothetically.
Right. Like, I'm just saying the whole point of the attorney general.
You're arguing for an isolationist attorney general right now. I just need you to know you're talking about some, very regressive views, and it's real. I'm just really shocked by, your highly conservative politics right now. They're showing through.
At the very start of this, I brought up McKinley, and then you echoed me on McKinley.
There are a lot of cartoon frogs on your wall. Well, who drew these, and how long have they been here?
Oh my God.
They've been here for about a year. I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting, especially
Anyway,
since,
moving on. Secretary of Interior.
One of them says feels good, man, but that frog is getting a swastika tattooed on its ass.
Jesus Christ. I
guess
will
if you like
not
pain,
be
sure.
painted as... God damn it.
Take those medals off. I know where those medals came from.
the greatest part of this is you are the most Third Reich looking man probably in all of Los Angeles doing this to a Jewish guy right now.
Yeah, and it is Passover week, guys. It is fucking Passover. Anyway, Secretary of the Interior.
Tomorrow.
Secretary of the Interior.
Tomorrow belongs to me looking motherfucker.
Secretary of the Interior. We're going to deal with our cabaret bullshit later.
What they do? What do they do?
I have no fucking clue, other than if I look at this site, it says Energy and Natural Resources Committee.
What do they do, Billy?
Sorry, what is Secretary of the Interior?
Secretary of the Interior.
We've just got a lot of land that the government owns, and they're in charge of it. This is an interesting position because it's a very political appointment in that you always give it to someone who's comes from the West historically, because out west, especially talking Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Nevada,
All the homestead states.
That's pretty accurate. And like those are states that have a lot of federal ownership, and you have a lot of problems there with locals who, on the most extreme end of that, you get the Bundy family who's like, no, we own it. It's the people's land, which means we get to privately own it and shoot people.
Can it?
He was the best of those Bundys. Cliven is the freak, but Ted and Eamon no, but Ted.
Oh, see, I went
people.
Al Bundy on that.
Oh, sure.
No peg.
Yeah.
But
Al, I want to pay the grazing fees.
4 touchdowns in a single game.
Anyway, so where do we land?
I'm gonna go Hufflepuff in that this is something where you're just trying to make everyone happy and keep a lot of warring sides on the same page, and you're not trying to make anything happen. And they're in charge of the national parks too, so it's just like,
so
look at the beautiful thing.
that's Hufflepuff.
Oh yeah. I should care more about Secretary of Interior because I love them national parks. That was like going back to my childhood when I was vacationing with my folks. It would always be national parks for 2 weeks as like a thing, which in retrospect, I'm realizing that is like a fantastically well budgeted vacation because it costs like $20 a night and a campsite. You can spread that out. You're always eating like bare bones as far as food goes because you're just like so hungry when you finish a bunch of hikes that you're like,
shout out to Hormel.
These cans of beans, like, yeah, I'm all about it. Or
and like
just like
city kids just being out in the wilderness, just like you don't have to worry about them getting bored.
But guys, Yosemite to Tuolumne Meadows, that is the campground
Go
that
while
you
you
want to
can,
go to.
kids.
Like don't bother with Yosemite Valley. Like that's nice, but it's touristy as fuck. You go up to Tuolumne Meadows, and that is where the true nature in Yosemite is at. Also, if you like
He's
explore,
pumping his fist in the air as he says all of
Because-
this.
And
like,
he's pointing to the Pepes.
guys, you gotta stop with the Pepes. They're not a thing. But the fucking national parks are so goddamn majestic. If you guys like,
I love your passion right now. No
I
joke.
love nature so much, and I love hiking, and I'm hoping that for my 30th birthday, which is coming up pretty soon, I'm not sure if I told you this, but I've been trying to make reservations in Yosemite so I can climb Half Dome. Like, I want that to be a thing. And the 15th is when like the 15th, 6 months prior is when you have to like jump on the reservations.
Yeah.
And they sell out in minutes.
Oh my
And I'm just
God.
like, I need to
They're
fucking
like the
get
Beyonce
this.
tickets of the parks.
It's fucking crazy. The 15th of every month is like, so this coming up one, I believe, is August or September. But like, anyway, doesn't matter.
if you're listening to this, help him get those tickets, man. He deserves
Guys,
it.
I'm just going to say,
They're not tickets, they're reservations.
I know we're a divided country right now, but I think we can all agree, let's take care of our public lands. Let's, not litter,
Yeah.
throw out, your trash, and don't even create trash if you can avoid it. Instead of, tampons, use a Diva Cup.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Was waiting for us to get back there. Anyway, moving on to Secretary of Agriculture, which is Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, which I have to assume then is interacting with the interior a little bit because of forestry.
The puffs.
Could be, absolutely. And I think you're also going to see USDA fall under agriculture. I'm not sure. But,
Puffs.
Right.
I think puffs too. And they're late. And like, honestly, frankly, the shitty kind of puffs that might even get into like Crab and Goyle types over in Slytherin.
Oh, no.
Because I don't know. I have a lot of problems with agriculture policy. I have a lot of problems with
The
corn.
USDA is a mess. It's a hot mess.
Yeah, I think the inclusion of nutrition in there, because
Like,
they
the fact
really
that
are a catch-all for like
The nutrition guides
what
are
happens on the land.
basically dictated by the food companies to like they manipulate the facts that are on the guide.
Yeah, I'm thinking more and more that this is one that really plays into the hand of corporate interests.
Yes, like this is
And-
where you see Monsanto and like a lot of other, big companies like that, big corporate farming companies working, grinding the gears.
Which I think inherently the intention of this was for it to be a Hufflepuff, but I think in its current state it might be more Slytherin.
I think it's used as a Slytherin.
Like, yeah, now, like, maybe before corn was in everything, it could have been
Corn
more
is
puff.
king.
Like, well, they were literally just trying to figure out, like, what do human bodies actually need to have in them every day? Because, like, we didn't really have that much science about nutrition until the last century or so.
Right.
No corn and silicone. Sorry, what were you saying?
It's all good, but we're jumping straight down to Secretary of
Diva Cup because I'm vegan.
Jesus Christ. We're never going to get
What animal does silicone come from? Had you been using a gelatin Diva Cup
I'm
made
just
of
saying
shark
mine
cartilage?
haven't been tested on animals. And can you say the same?
What's that? I believe that humans are part of the family animal, so absolutely not.
Secretary of Commerce. Gonna just keep driving this train, boat, car metaphor
The MAGA
forward.
Trump train? Get off of Reddit.
Oh my goodness. Secretary of Commerce. In charge of Commerce, Science, Transportation Committee.
I mean, commerce is always going to be a very right-wing side of this because there's the stated intention of commerce is essentially to create jobs. Yay, we all like that, but essentially, keep finances moving and growing. It's all about economic growth. Not necessarily worrying about the way the Treasury or the way that labor does, like what are the other costs or the management of that. So they're about cutting deals, I think, a lot.
What's interesting here, if I'm just jumping a little bit further down the list, there's a Secretary of Transportation, and the way I said Secretary of Transportation is an odd bit of inflection, but they're also, if I'm seeing this correctly, they work on the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. So there's like a bit of double dipping there.
What's this noise?
Oh, the noise that the listeners can't hear because these microphones are really good is the sound of my downstairs neighbor taking a shower.
Wow.
It's a great sound. We're hearing some pipes right now. That said, jumping back to the point I was making about these two things having
Let's sort showers really quickly.
Oh my lord, we have so many things to sort.
Okay, we're going to just very quickly sort showers versus baths relative to one another, which house is each in.
Okay.
What about half bathrooms where they don't have a shower or bathtub?
I feel like, are you making this a class thing again?
Well, because what if you gotta take a monkey bath? Because like you gotta get those armpits cleaned out and disinfected, but you don't got a shower or a bathtub.
A bath is a Hufflepuff, a shower is a Gryffindor.
And
moving
a
on.
sink is
just
a small bath.
Useful for birds.
Wow. I think it's its own thing, but fine.
Anyway, Secretary of Commerce has very similar overlap to Secretary of Transportation as I am seeing it currently laid out on this wonderful Wikipedia page, which we are perusing.
I'm going to save some of us a lot of time right now. Secretary of Transportation is a straight Hufflepuff. They're boring. They're just about, safe and let's build roads.
Well, so my question there is that the one that's dealing most with like public works / infrastructure, your roads, your bridges?
They're the ones telling us, to wear our seatbelts and telling us how safe cars are.
They are
like
lazy. Our infrastructure sucks shit.
That said, what makes... So Secretary of Commerce is dealing also with all of the things that they are. So what sets them a league apart?
I think in terms of the type of person you go to for Secretary of Commerce and more contemporary, like I believe it was it Commerce or no, it was Labor that Trump just tried to get the Hardee's guy on, which would have sucked so bad.
The Hardee's guy?
The owner of Hardee's, Carl's Jr. was going to be our Secretary of Labor for a hot second.
And then he dropped out.
Yeah.
He had to go watch a woman wash a car in slow motion.
I've never been to Hardee's, nor have I been to Carl's Jr.
The fuck?
Their
You
crisp
are
cut
Slytherin.
fries are pretty great.
Really? I mean, now I just feel like I can't go now that they're...
Have you not been to the combination green burrito either?
Oh, I've been to a green burrito once.
You've been there then.
So by proxy, yeah.
I've given them money.
You've gotten the
But
experience.
I've not gotten the experience. I've eaten a burrito.
Let's go get a famous star right now. Everyone pick up their mics.
Fine,
Let's go.
give money to someone who wants to make, robots in charge of the restaurants.
That said, Secretary of Commerce, where are we landing with this?
Puff. It's
Puff?
fine. Yeah.
I'm going Slytherin.
What? You said Puff.
I said Puff for transportation.
Yeah, transportation is Puff.
Listen.
And every
Commerce is
Slytherin likes a
Slytherin.
good Puff in order to tell them hey, you're doing this.
Oh, okay.
All right, Secretary of Labor, which is dealing with health, education, labor, and the pensions committee, which is very similar overlap with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, which is dealing with health, education, labor, pensions committee as a consultant. And then they're also dealing with the finance committee.
I think we can take care of this one really quick.
Okay.
I think we can both agree. At least in my mind, these are very clearly the same thing. And so I want us on three to say what we think that both of these are. If we, or maybe you think they're different things.
Well,
maybe I'm pushing my own agenda too much. I don't know. I'm a Slytherin. I have no conscience.
Well, see, it's the thing that's
He
driving
pulled the
me.
knife out of his pocket and then put it back in.
The thing
I
that's
put it into my own stomach.
the thing that's driving me a little Betty. Oh, it was like a Videodrome sort of thing.
He's bleeding a lot.
The thing that drives me a little bit crazy
What's
in
good
looking
for when you're bleeding a lot?
I don't know what is good for when you're
I would
bleeding
need
a lot.
somebody to collect it.
Oh my god.
But I'd like to do it in a responsible way, in a sterile way.
We are never going to get through this list of cabinet members. Jesus God. All right.
Bring religion into it again.
Which one was it again?
We're looking at the Secretary of Labor.
Oh, Gryffindor?
Gryffindor.
Sure. Well, I don't even know what Secretary of... Like, the thing that's maddening to me is that some of these positions are sitting in on so many, like, cross committees that it's really hard for you to dilute specifically what it is that they do. And
it's
maybe
almost
that's...
like government is purposely confusing for
It's
anybody
like
who didn't have a chance to go to a very fancy Ivy League school.
It's
and
a
get an
goddamn
education
mystery
and
mire.
Political science and history to understand these things. It's almost like that.
It's almost like government has so far purposefully and in a good way gone past the bounds originally outlined in the Constitution that we need a very complicated executive bureaucracy by definition in order to carry out the essential services and to have people who can have proper oversight over these things, especially when half of Congress is at any given time hell-bent on saying, no, you're not allowed to help people in this regard. I'm just saying, I like executive action. I like judicial action, too.
So, we're saying Gryffindor there on Secretary of Labor. Secretary of Health and Human Services, is this also going Gryffindor?
I'm also going Gryffindor.
Yeah.
They gotta fight.
Despite the fact that they're also now working with the Finance Committee?
Oh, well, you gotta fight realistically and pragmatically. You gotta fight with the resources you're given. That's like saying, like, I'm gonna go start a war not knowing where the armory is.
Now, would Health and Human Services, just to belabor some distilling of knowledge, would
Diva Cups are covered on under your flexible spending account.
Oh, you would think they were, but people...
That's right.
Women aren't considered people anymore.
So, but this is who would primarily be dealing with our healthcare, correct?
Yeah, or at the current moment with Tom Price trying to destroy it.
However you're looking at it, yes. I'm trying to be as even keel.
But, he's a crusader for that side. He's not afraid to get down dirty and fight for what he believes in.
I'm just
So
saying,
that
if
still makes him a
Donald Trump
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
like has a weird cough, he's in like a $1 million clinic, not even in this country, the next day.
Michael, I want to be able to shield you from this because I know how much that argument offended you. So I'm going to explain to Katie.
Not my
Donald
president.
Trump
Maybe
is the healthiest president
Michael Barryte's president. Maybe
of
not my
all
president.
time. His doctor has
Literally
said as much.
before this started, I
His
was like, let's
Independence
try to
Day
keep this
doctor,
as...
Dr. Oaken.
Michael Barryte, I know that this was very traumatic for you, but when you got punched...
It was a great gif.
I just want to go on record saying I'm somebody who does not mind being a punching bag, but like, sweet mercy of fuck, you are pushing my buttons, and you are pushing those buttons very hard with a lot of force, and you are very lucky that you are so far away from me right now.
I'm sweating so hard right now. When Michael gets mad.
That said,
What's next up, Michael?
oh my gosh, it's the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. It's our HUD
Michael,
friend.
don't use a tissue to wipe away that sweat on your forehead. That'll just go to waste.
None of my friends are ever going to be allowed on the show again.
They're silently laughing at me. They are silently laughing at me.
Oh, God. Only because I'm choking on the laughter at the same time.
Ugh. There's like heat radiating out of all of us, and it
does actually feel palpably warm in this room.
Yeah. So, HUD,
Yeah.
who's dealing with Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee. I mean, the best intentions, at least at its core, if I'm understanding it correctly.
It's Hestia, goddess of the hearth.
What?
Ooh, nice reference.
I'm going with there's a very maternal feel to HUD for me.
Right.
I'm going with Puff.
Puff, yeah. I was thinking,
Yeah.
I think its intention is definitely Hufflepuff.
We got a lot of Hufflepuffs so
What?
far.
I mean, we started with some Ravenclaws going through. I'm also seeing a very wry smile on your face, Billy, and I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop.
How I don't know, just like as I say this as a Puff, a lot of people find the Hufflepuffs to be like the useless house. So it's just a really great parallel.
Slytherins will put you to work. We'll find something like for you to do in like our master scheme, like in order to
You're
take over the
taking
world.
to this too well.
I don't know. I'm just leaning into it now.
It's worth noting every time that we have had a Slytherin on who has made the discovery that they're a Slytherin on our show, they subsequently just own it and are so like
they are like 10 times more confident walking out of that sorting hat
many
quiz
ways
than when they walked in.
We're doing them a great service. You're becoming your true you.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So we've already dealt with Secretary of Transportation. We're moving on to Secretary of Energy.
I'm a Ravenclaw.
Secretary of Energy, which is Energy and Natural Resources Committee.
If you support Pottermore, you support Gwyneth Paltrow.
I don't necessarily. I mean, your argument stands from earlier before, but I don't necessarily stand with you in that argument. And I'm sorry. We're now dealing with Secretary of Energy and Natural Resources, which includes, as Rick Perry made the discovery, also nuclear power.
Yeah.
When he got the job, he found this out afterwards.
So there's a lot of power in this person's hand, wind, water, nuclear, and otherwise.
I mean, not that the government is like, this administration is now like, we'll just strip all that away.
I would argue the intention of this position is Ravenclaw.
I think it's very Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Like when this comes down to it, this is the person who should be Secretary of Energy is someone who's going to tell us, you need the most powerful energy source on planet Earth. I'm going to take one rock and put next to another rock, and that's going to work.
Like the previous, in the Obama administration, it was a nuclear physicist.
Was it Stephen Chu?
You might be right. I don't know the names.
If I got that name wrong and like just made up, like I feel like I, like an absolute, moron. But I hope I got it right.
The guy we got now.
Aside, the cabinet itself is intended, or seemingly as Ravenclaw.
No, they're like, what's the most we can get for as much output as we can get for the most input.
Until we get cold fusion.
I mean, and just in terms of the guy we got now, everyone who is in the cabinet right now, they would another government be called, essentially, they would be the shadow ministers. These are all anti-popes that we currently have in the cabinet of the Trump administration. They're all people who specifically want to tear down the fundamental purpose of their position. So you almost need to just look at the inverse, put it through Photoshop.
Well, and I mean, this is going to sound heinous and feed into your weird conspiracy theories around me right now.
Diva Cups are good?
No, not that one. But some of these, based on the amount of overlap between some things, you probably could lose one or two of these positions completely and just roll them into something. The fact that there's so much overlap on committees. Granted, I'm sure there is much more than this Wikipedia page is leading me to believe, but at face value,
you're gonna get some hate mail from people who work in these positions.
Oh, we've yet to receive any mail, so
don't tell them that.
Moving on to Secretary of Education. This is a Puff, right?
I mean,
a Gryffindor.
Yeah, I mean, it is the department that will tell you whether you can shoot a bear or not.
Come on.
And feel safe.
Looking just at the cabinet as it stands in isolation.
Probably
if you've never held a real job in your life before, but you have the money to bribe three.
We're not talking about this current administration.
And your money comes from your brother who systematically killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and loved it.
I said before this we weren't going to talk about the current administration anyway.
Yeah, okay, but on
he's currently in some island in the Indian Ocean meeting with the people from the UAE trying to form essentially some weird coalition on behalf
Secretary of Education, what is its intention?
Puff.
Okay. Secretary of Veteran Affairs, give it to me straight. 1, 2, 3. I don't know, Gryffindor.
I was going to say Ravenclaw, but I don't know. It's fine.
No, because they fuck up their job so hard.
Yeah.
It's consistently like the most underperforming.
Secretary of Homeland Security.
Slytherin.
Wow, okay. Why?
It was, I mean, one, remember, this was created after 9/11. And
This is true.
And what is the one, when you think of Homeland Security, what's the one thing you think of?
Like, Patriot Act?
Sure. I mean, you're going even deeper. Like I was just going to say the color coding system. It's all designed to just make people, freak out.
I mean, the interesting...
It's Orwellian of any of the departments. It's the one that's designed to make people feel a certain way.
The craziest part about Secretary of Homeland Security and the whole Bush administration post 9/11 was like pretty early on, I believe Bush went on record being like, we should not be discriminating against Muslims, like this, that, and the other thing. And then I guess it was like Rove and Cheney who were sort of pushing for Homeland Security's formation.
Well, you know this history much better than I do. I mean, just pull up that Reddit page you were just on. Like,
I don't love this bit
What color
anymore.
pill was that?
I'm so beyond this bit, guys.
Okay.
Looking at trade representation, it's not even secretary of, it's just trade representative.
Oh.
It's just trade representative.
Why can't they be? All right.
What does trade representative do?
Wait, this is a cabinet level?
I'm just looking at, in the office, it says trade representative. These are all cabinet of the United States. It's right there. Yeah, trade representative.
Oh man, whoever's trade representative right now is like, come on.
I didn't even know.
You never heard.
I guess this is cabinet level positions, but yeah.
The Office of United States Trade Representative is the United States government's agencies responsible for developing and recommending United States trade policy to the President of the United States, conducting trade negotiations at bilateral and multilateral levels, and coordinating trade policy with the government through the so I guess they'd be dealing with like NATO and
it sounds like they'd be dealing with
what would have been the TPP
and
all of that.
Yeah, I guess
international listeners, if you're like, how do these people feel at all confused about the government? Like, welcome to the United States, baby.
I'm feeling like this is a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, because especially when stuff like TPP is all about, okay, we're going to lend this many of your light pickup trucks so long as you let in this many frozen chickens, which is literally a big sticking point with us in Japan. Yeah, you got to be Ravenclaw for that.
Wait, what?
There is Japan specifically puts a big tariff on U.S. chickens being imported. I forget why, if it's about their own poultry industry.
Is that why KFC is such a big deal out there?
KFC's, that's a weird cultural thing relating to the weird Christmas tradition of throwing the curdle into the river or whatever city that happens in.
You don't do that at Christmas?
Just not as much anymore. Just because, I've just been away from home for a while. But in turn, one of the things that we do is, in order to protect our own automotive industry, we put a big tax on their pickup trucks. So that's why, even though a Toyota Tundra is a wonderful truck, you see any guy who works at a construction site, with a Dodge, a Chevy, or a Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The more you know.
Ba-na-na-na. Moving on to Director of National Intelligence.
That was Jim Clapper last time around, right?
You're asking the wrong person. But Intelligence Committee, so they're the head of CIA, NSA, FBI?
I go with the Ravenclaw on that because I fundamentally
is that correct?
I think they do stuff I think they do stuff like that. But listen, that's why the internet's here. We're going to go on a magical journey every time.
You're making me go on this journey, and I don't appreciate it.
That's the only thing you haven't appreciated tonight. So just be glad that's the only bad thing that we've done.
Ooh, whoa! I didn't realize this was founded so recently.
Oh, when is it?
National Security, or the DNI, as it's referred to. It seems like it was formed in 2005.
Probably to bring everything together because the FBI and the CIA weren't so much at war, which apparently they still are. We're learning interesting things about our country thanks to James Comey and how much he's fucked up.
Yeah, before the DNI was formally established, the head of the intelligence community was the director of Central Intelligence.
Interesting.
Who concurrently served as the director of... so they were the director of the CIA. And then during the 9/11 commission, they recommended this position, establishing this position.
Mm-hmm.
So to, I guess, consolidate information, which makes sense.
I'm all for bringing all that data into one trapper keeper.
Yeah, although that does at the same time endanger that if the wrong people are in charge or data breaches happen.
But that could never happen.
No,
a million
no.
years. So on its face, are we going to say Ravenclaw or Gryffindor? Those are my two.
Wow, so I expected you to be like Snowden on this and say Slytherin, but yeah, I'm for Ravenclaw. I'm for Ravenclaw because they sort of work behind the scenes.
I'm trying to I don't know, I lean too much. I'm trying to be less biased right now because if we're talking about like these intelligence bureaus, how they treated MLK Jr., that's a whole different Slytherin. But on its face value, it doesn't necessarily seem like
this
a Slytherin.
position didn't exist until, a little more than 10 years ago, which is, it's a really interesting thing sort of to be dissecting these more recent positions. Yeah, I think Ravenclaw does seem correct, and I recognize that Gryffindor could also be in there.
A Ravenclaw knows Ravenclaw.
Then we have ambassador to the UN.
Ooh.
What's that ooh mean?
That's pretty much the idea of the UN is itself incredibly Ravenclaw. Although, but the idea of going out there to advocate in front of it, I think it's very Gryffindor, and I can't help but think of someone like Adlai Stevenson when I think of this.
See, when I hear UN, I think it's very Hufflepuff.
Sure, we all want to get along and be nice.
Or maybe what was the League of Nations would maybe be Hufflepuff.
That would be Hufflepuff, and especially Hufflepuff because it should have been worked, but we just decide to say fuck it for no reason.
Yeah.
And so we just sort of pushed it in the mud and kicked its backpack.
Yeah. So League of Nations definitely Hufflepuff. UN could be Hufflepuff, could be Ravenclaw, but ambassador to United Nations. I think Gryffindor seems safe, solid, sound.
It doesn't seem like a very easy job to have.
We're nearing the end.
Whereas the rest of these I could handle.
Office of Management and Budget.
Nerd.
We're just rapid firing. Okay, Ravenclaw.
Nerd's a house.
Now we have the Director of Central Intelligence Agency, which is an interesting one considering there's the Director of National Intelligence.
The fuck?
At this point, we're really splitting hairs in terms of cabinet positions that no one knows or care about. Let's be honest, we got into this for the secretaries.
Predominantly, yes.
Listen, let's just call it as we see it. Shoot from the hip right here. Director of something intelligence. I'm going Ravenclaw.
Yeah, I mean, that seems fair. We've got two more. Administrator of Environmental Protection Agency.
Hufflepuff.
Environment, EPA.
Yeah, EPA.
Gryffindor, but I understand Hufflepuff.
Yeah, it's one of those two.
They're getting pushed around right now, and they have a lot in the past.
The intent.
In the past, I would say.
The intent, never forget, created by Nixon.
Wait, really?
EPA was created under Nixon.
Wow.
Around the time of the Clean Water Act. Clean Air Act, or both. I don't know.
Well,
that makes sense. Have you seen pictures of Los Angeles around the time that he was president?
Oh, yeah, those smoggy ass pictures.
That's why we saw
movie stars.
We're at their cleanest.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so we're saying, wait, did we land on Gryffindor?
I'm saying Hufflepuff.
And you're saying Gryffindor.
I'm saying Gryffindor because again, you're the Lorax. What is the Lorax? Is a Lorax
He speaks for the trees, Katie. He speaks for the trees. Lorax is
I'm saying at the end, the Gryffindor would have saved the trees and the Lorax didn't. So I'd say the Lorax is a Hufflepuff.
The Lorax was born out of a tree. The Lorax.
Do we know that for sure?
You chopped down the truffle tree and the Lorax popped out of the stump.
How you know he wanted you to live in there?
Because the Lorax lives everywhere. And also, where was the Lorax before then? There was no borehole in there. He was not some
We
weevil
didn't ask him.
or some
But
beetle.
once the Onceler showed up, things just went south.
Yeah. What house is a Thneed in?
A Thneed?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm just saying,
What about the Starbelly Sneeches?
Gryffindors get shit done.
Ooh,
I mean,
and
Starbelly Sneeches are Slytherin,
they're
right?
the most clear. They're the Malfoys.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually blanking on Thneeds.
Thneeds are what the Onceler makes. A Thneed is a thing that everyone needs.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Indeed.
I mean, a Thneed is capitalism.
Yeah, a Thneed would be Slytherin, right?
Okay. Wow. Okay,
Oh,
that's how we
yeah.
feel. All right.
I love you, Michael, in this moment.
I'm a believer in market-based solutions, even though they're implemented incorrectly 98%
You
of
would,
the
because the
time.
market-based solutions have benefited you your entire life.
I'm
Where
saying
do
that
you
most
winter?
market-based solutions don't actually work, but theoretically, I like market-based solutions. They're more efficient. Though I recognize that people who advocate for market-based solutions are generally assholes or actually just advocating for themselves.
Are we
I'm
going
just
to
saying I
keep
like to
doing this breathy whisper bit? What's going on,
That's
guys?
just his speaking voice, dude.
No, man. Before there was a little more volume there.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
see?
I got quiet when it became clear that no one wanted to talk about Diva Cups anymore.
I'm very sorry, but we get to sort one final cabinet position. The most exciting of cabinet positions. It's the administrator of small business administration.
And like, just because it's a new one, you have to relatively new one. You can't help but associate it with the current office holder, and that is Linda McMahon. Linda McMahon
Of the WWE McMahon.
Stamford,
Wait,
Connecticut's
really?
finest.
Has been given a cold stone stunner.
A cold stone stunner. That's ice cream they're talking about.
Oh wait, what?
You want a stone cold stunner? A cold stone
I'm like the
stunner
king of
is a fabulous sundae.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God.
Rocky
Y'all
Road
know what I
316.
meant. Listen, I'm drunk. What was the wrestling lady again?
Linda McMahon.
Is what job?
She's the administrator of small business administration.
Because if anybody thinks about the WWE, they think small business.
So this started back in 1953 with Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I would have actually thought that this would have been one of those Roosevelt sort of, what was it like? What were the term of his like ABC alphabet?
You had a bunch of different things, but you had like the WPA, the Works Products Administration, the NRA, the National Relief.
But what was the name of that like conglomerate of things that he created? They were called like alphabet organizations.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and it is on the tip of my brain, and it is driving me.
Ladies, slide into Michael Barryte's DMs if you know the name of the conglomerate. It had something to do with the alphabet.
Oh my gosh! Now I'm just gonna search it.
Paint it on your boobs.
Alphabet agencies. There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
I feel better. And we've sorted them all. We've done it. We've sorted
We didn't
all.
say what it was.
Fuck. What is it? I'm gonna say it's fighting for the small businesses. So probably a Gryffindor.
Let's mix this up a little bit, just because it's currently owned by or currently run by Linda McMahon. Is the Small Business Administration, is it a face or is it a heel in wrestling terms? Is it a face or is it a heel? I'm gonna go with it's a face. I think it's there for the fans to get
I
behind.
believe so. I don't really speak wrestling. I know that you don't
Face
want to
is
be
good
the
guy,
heel.
heel's bad guy.
Yeah. I have to say they're on the good side of things. They're fighting for the little guy. They're fighting for the everyman.
They're the face.
Well, you
They're
give
fighting
him a
for the
Cold Stone Creamery.
They're fighting for the mom and pop shops. they've got that story that pulls at your heartstrings.
They're all about the suplexes. Yeah, like they're the John Cena.
They're
of,
the Gryffindor. They're
Yeah.
Gryffindor, like unquestionably so.
As
I'm
boring
for
as
that.
John Cena, I said it.
Whoa.
I agree.
Whoa. But we do love that bit.
I love that song so much that I'm just mad it's associated with John Cena.
What song is it? I don't even know this.
Michael just pirated it and like played at the end for our listeners.
Oh God, I don't want to do that.
I'm
But I might.
throwing a tantrum.
They're throwing a massive tantrum. There's arms
Kicking
flailing.
my feet on the ground.
Yeah, and I just came from Passover
I'm
where
gonna
I was
do this until I
I
tucker
was
myself
dealing
out.
with my cousin who has 2-month-old twins, and Katie right now is
boy.
flailing far more than them when they are cranky, and I'm trying to figure out as to whether or not they need to be burped or whether they pooped or
Baby's
whether
not going to tell you.
whether they hungry.
And I'm not
yeah.
going to tell you either.
No, but it seems like your tantrum has subsided, and with that subsided tantrum, I'd like to thank our guest, Billy Domineau, for joining in and accusing me.
Slytherin.
Yeah, thanks for accusing me of being a Pepe-loving Trump supporter.
Listen, I just I tell it like I think I see it.
Can't wait to have you back. Where can they find you? And
They can find me at most Trump rallies. I don't go to you don't go to everyone because I'm busy, on Twitter at Billy Domineau. And
Billy
things like-
Domineau is spelled uniquely, however, not like the playing mahjong.
Not like the word domino used in any other context. Yeah, like
But, the
E-A-U
way
instead of
that-
an
yeah.
O. Domineau.
Like Domino didn't just sound French enough. I need to make it read more French.
I just need to be so clear about something from a few minutes ago. I just need to say I recognize that almost every market-based solution fails in terms of the way it's been branded and implemented by the right wing. I'm very pro-Obamacare. I'm very pro-single-payer, things like that. I'm just saying, I like the idea of a carbon tax. A carbon
Motherfucking
tax would be really nice.
technocrat.
Carbon tax with
Son of a
refunds,
bitch.
refunds tied into a guaranteed income would be a great little
I'm
thing.
sure a guaranteed income would be great.
Katie, what fun stuff you got going on or would like to plug? Yeah, we customarily don't do this, but now I'm throwing it to you.
Me and Michael Barryte, at least for the next month, are in a show called Direct to Video, or Double Feature over at its new title over at Comedy Sports in North Hollywood. You can look that up at the Comedy Sports website. We also are part of Comedy Sports.
Comedy Sports LA.
LA,
Sports Los
yeah. So if you're in the honestly, if you're a listener, contact me. I'll get you free tickets.
You can follow Katie at that Katie Reed. You can follow me at Belated Media. We'd also encourage you to leave us a review on iTunes or Google Play, wherever you get your podcast, because I've made it so you can listen to us on Google Play. I made sure that happened. I'm figuring all this podcast landscape out
You're
as we
a
go,
maven,
guys.
Yeah.
Look, it's fine. And with all that in mind, get ready for John Cena.
Katie just passed out.